Well, how are you doing?
Been good, man. It's actually been really good.
Yeah, update us on what all it's been 2 years
It's been 2
now
years. Yeah,
because it was the end
January.
of the it was like the year start was the transition into choosing love,
That's
and it's
it.
been 2 years.
Yeah, it's been right at 2 years, and it's been amazing. It's
Mhm.
been so good. Just kinda seeing what God's done with choosing love and how it's grown and how it's developed. In the last 2 years, it's so funny because I've realized 2 things that seem contradictory can be true simultaneously.
Mhm.
Um, Knew beyond a shadow of a doubt God called us to start choosing love. And yet, simultaneously, the hardest thing I've ever done was step down and step away from True North. I
Mm.
mean, it was just, I love this ministry, changed my
Mhm.
life, saved our marriage. I mean, everything that we're doing today is because of True North and what God's done through this. And so, it's been such an interesting 2 years
Yeah.
that God had really worked some things in me. And I had said for years, one of the things that I loved about True North was that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about Brad. I always used kind of use Brad and Brad Montgomery. As I say, at one time he was the chairman of the board and I was executive director and kind of co-founders. And I go, it's not about us.
Mhm.
And I used to kind of joke, I'm like, we could both die in a car crash today,
Yeah.
and True North would continue without us. And I would jokingly say, probably do better, if we'd get out of the way. But there's truth in that,
Mhm.
and that was something that I had to walk through that was actually really, really difficult to give
Yeah.
up something that you love
Yeah.
to do something that God's calling you to.
Mhm.
And it's been so good. And I had a piece cognitively going, there's a great board of directors,
Mm.
there's great volunteers. True North was in a great place, great leadership with you.
Mm.
Um, like I knew on the surface, it's going to be okay. Matter of fact,
Mhm.
not even be okay. It's going to thrive, do probably even better once again if
Mhm.
I'd get out of the way. Um, like that in your head,
Mm.
but it's hard sometimes stepping away from things that you just absolutely love.
It's like I haven't even thought about this, but how is God going to be able to use you for these people that have to step away from something that they would retire in or called in for their whole life? Because
Yeah,
like when we get passionate about things, like you think it's okay, this is for the rest of my life,
that's right.
and that's what your heart wants. But like, man, what a how could he use you for those people, pastors, ministry leaders that have to go into this transition? Because you're saying all that, and like, I can't imagine the heartache and just the finding yourself
Yeah.
that has to happen during that transition. So,
There was one of my favorite pastors, Francis Chan. I love listening to him, read
hmm
several of his books. And he kind of went through this several years
hmm
ago. And, here he is, a mega church pastor, huge church, San Francisco. And basically, some things happened in his church, and some people in his church, and he was asking them, would they give up the things that were really, really significant for God?
hmm
And so he said, he goes, I kind of flippantly pray this prayer: God, is there anything I wouldn't give up for you?
hmm
And the Lord responds back and goes, this church.
hmm
And Francis is like, well, but that doesn't count. I
yeah,
mean, this is a good thing.
yeah,
This is your
yeah.
church. You've called me here. And why would I ever give that up? It's a good thing.
hmm
And God's like, but would you?
hmm
And here was a very successful, from all the world standards, but I would argue even from a spiritual standard.
hmm
I mean, a growing church in a very liberal area and, making an impact in books and speaker and author. And I mean, leading so many people to Christ. And God asked him to step away from the church.
hmm
And I remember at the time, like at the surface, to go, okay, well, yeah, that sounds great.
hmm
But going, holy cow, what if?
Yeah.
And I remember several years ago going, God, what if you ever called me away from True North?
hmm
Um, and I remember at the time thinking, that'll never happen.
yeah.
It'll never happen.
Yeah.
And of course, then it does. And
Yeah.
and it's actually such a good thing, because what that allowed us to do was for True North to continue and to go start something new.
hmm
And that is how we multiply the kingdom.
Yeah.
And that's really something that God's been showing me here lately
Yeah.
is it's about multiplication.
Mhm.
And we actually have to divide to multiply.
Mhm. Well,
And
and that speaks to your heart too,
oh,
because you're a builder, right?
yes, I love it.
You love it. I mean, that's why True North is like that was the foundation that I got to step in and help build on top of was like all the building you did for years and years. And so now, what's that looked like so far for choosing love and for you and Amy?
Yeah. So choosing love, we're a marriage ministry.
Hmm.
And, and that was part of it. Real quick to even kind of the lead up right to this. So I actually knew within about a year of becoming the executive director. So I became executive director January 1st of 2015. And I went to Colorado to go through Become Good Soil, which is
Yeah.
now becoming a King, True North Summit. And I went through that in Colorado. It was either October, November of 2015. So I've been in the role as executive director full time for not even a year.
Hmm.
And I'm in the woods praying, and God says, I want you to start doing counseling. And I was like, God, I just became executive director. I'm now out of a 16-year career as a
Hmm.
financial advisor to be full-time ministry of this ministry that I love, but now you're calling me to be a counselor. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I'll do that down the road.
Yeah.
And God just kept pushing and pushing. And so I start the process, go to school. The board was so good. We started True North Biblical Counseling, which was great, and I loved it. And Amy and I started doing, True North marriage events.
Hmm.
But the reality is, it wasn't True North's mission.
Hmm.
The mission at True North is to create environments where men can hear from God. That's not women. That's not marriage ministry, and that
Hmm.
doesn't mean God doesn't care about it. It's not the mission that He called True North to.
Yeah.
And so here I am trying to kind of force a round hole in a square peg, or vice versa. And um, and as I'm sitting there, I'm doing full time counseling. I'm trying to run True North, and we're kind of doing pseudo side marriage ministry. And I was spent.
Yeah.
I was taxed. I was overwhelmed. Here I am running 2 to 3 full time jobs.
Hmm.
It wasn't fair to you. It wasn't fair to the staff at the time because you were getting the scraps, frankly, left of me. And I just was like, God, something has to give. To be candid, I never thought it was True North,
Mm.
and I didn't know what because I loved all of it, but it wasn't right to the counseling, it wasn't right to the marriage ministry, it wasn't right to True North,
Mhm.
and frankly, it wasn't right to Amy and I because
Mm.
I was just maxed,
Yeah. I mean, I'm
and
spent doing one of those.
one of them's a full time
Yeah.
job, and we still have kids at the house.
Yeah.
We still have only one right now, but
Tell real quick, tell us about your kid. Like, I'm sure that people watching this, like, they know your family. Like, tell us how are Luke and Zach and Ethan doing?
oh, man, so God has been so good to our family. I
Mhm.
mean, all three of our boys are walking with the Lord. Our oldest son, Zach, is 26.
Mhm.
At the day of filming this, he just turned 26, like last week.
Mhm.
He's a pastor with Life Church in Denver, married. They've been married for 4.5 years now, doing
Yeah.
amazing, leading men's groups. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been to 6 or 7 base camps
Yeah.
now. He's brought so many men. He's taken that concept to men. I mean, wild at heart groups and all this. It's just been incredible. Um, Middle son Luke is married. He is a modern day Paul.
Yeah.
This kid is just on fire. And I say kid, he's a man. He's 21,
Yeah.
married. He and his wife both, I mean, love Jesus, serve Jesus. And they get down and dirty. Like in their neighborhood, there's an apartment complex right across the street. They go and take food. They invite kids over. They
Wow.
do cookouts. I mean, they've led hundreds. And by the time he was graduated high school, he had led hundreds of youth to Christ, and that hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
he's preached cities, states, countries.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just incredible. And his faith in Jesus and what they're doing. And then the baby, Ethan, 19, who's actually now the biggest one. We've
Yeah.
told him the whole time, we're like, you better be nice to your little brother because he's going to
Yeah.
whoop your butt one day. And
Does he still have the mustache?
he pseudo off and on every now and then. But he's actually gotten jacked. He
Yeah.
started working out and he's jacked. He looks
Yeah.
great. And has a girlfriend that we just love her to death.
Yeah.
He went something called YWAM,
Yeah.
Youth with a Mission. He spent 6 months on the mission field after he graduated high school and went to Sierra Leone, Africa on a mission trip, and then actually went to Guinea-Bissau, Africa. eating rats because you eat what they eat.
Oh,
And so
wow.
they would catch these, they had some name for them, but they were these huge rats and they would eat them, sleeping in mud huts. I mean, however the people there lived, that's how you lived. And I mean, they just went preach the gospel, laying on hands, healing. It's just been incredible. And so he and his girlfriend are serving at their church, and I mean, just it's been incredible. God's been so good to our family,
Yeah.
and how all of them are not just knowing Jesus. That alone is a blessing.
Right.
And we have so many friends that their adult children don't know the Lord, and it breaks my heart because I mean, I'm just like, I don't ever want to take it for granted. But not only do our boys, are they walking with Jesus, all of them in some way, form, or capacity are even leading for
Right.
Jesus. And so we're beyond blessed for that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So
So two
good.
out of the three married, and really hoping that, the girl he's dating right now, just
Yeah.
saying we really like her.
Yeah.
And they all look alike. So here's the crazy part.
All the girls do?
All the girls do. Our boys look nothing
Yeah.
alike. They don't even look like
Yeah.
brothers. All three of these girls, tall, skinny, long, dark hair, and two of them look like they could be twins.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Our Dixon boys clearly have a type.
That's so
So,
funny.
yeah, so we've been blessed that now we have these two daughters, and one day we'll even have a third, and
Yeah.
so it's been awesome.
That's cool. Cool. So sorry to take we took that not sorry, that but we took that little sidetrack. So back onto choosing love, kind of talk about its beginnings and the transition process into that.
Yeah, so choosing love kind of carried on with what which was True North Biblical Counseling is choosing love biblical
Hmm.
counseling. So we do pastoral counseling, predominantly marriage, but not exclusively. I mean, I meet with a lot of individuals and different issues and grief or whatever. But it's predominantly marriage counseling, and I mean, I love it. It's something that Amy and I get to do together.
Hmm.
It's kind of our heart and our passion, our calling. And so it's been great from that standpoint, that we get to help people on a day in day out basis. And that was really where God kind of gave me kind of the release to do this several years
Hmm.
ago. Once again, as director of True North, I was busy during the day, so it was hard to meet with men sometimes because there was so much work to be done. And so when I would meet with guys was early in the morning, like 6 a.m. for coffee, but I can only do 5 of those a week. And I remember one time, there was a time when a guy reached out to me, someone had given him, my name and number, and said, "Hey, this guy's going through an affair. He's borderline suicidal. I mean, all this stuff." And could you talk to him, reach out to him? And so this guy texts me. Well, the first available time I had to meet with him was like in 6 weeks. Like my schedule was booked solid at from 6 to 8 a.m. for like 6 weeks. And I was just like, God, there's got to be a better way. And God was like, well, if you meet with people in counseling, you can meet with 7 people per day.
Mm.
And like that simple fact was just this epiphany for me of going, well, this is my opportunity to sit down with guy after guy, couple after couple, person after person.
Hmm.
And that's what I love doing. And so that was really kind of just that very simplicity, yeah, I can meet with one guy in the morning, or I can meet with 7 people in a single day.
Mm.
And so that was kind of how all that even started. But choosing love, our counseling is, doing phenomenal, going really, really well. We even have 2 other counselors with us. We started doing something that I'm calling it church chaplaincy,
Hmm.
which sounds kind of weird. But what that is we're actually putting a pastoral counselor on site at a church. So there's a lot of churches that have a need, but maybe can't afford, to have a specific pastor just for counseling or whatever. And so what we'll do is we'll bring one of our counselors in and go, let us put him in your church, because a lot of churches have tons of free space. They're called Sunday school classes, traditional
Hmm.
churches that don't get used Monday through Friday, except for maybe a Wednesday night. But Monday through Friday during the day, they're often completely vacant.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, let us kind of retrofit it and make it dual use. And we have free overhead, free space for a counselor to meet. They're sending their people to them, and they've got someone right there on site. And so far, it's worked out phenomenal. It's been a really, really good kind of mix of
Mm.
bringing the counselors with the church together. And so we're doing that, which has been, it's a God idea when I was never even halfway smart enough to think about it. It just kind of came about. And one of the pastors and I talking, and he's like, "What if you put someone here?" And I was like, "That's a genius
Mm,
idea." And so that's worked out really well.
that's awesome.
And then we're doing date nights, which I think I can probably, hopefully, one
Yeah.
of the things we've been doing these date nights where we wanted to be able to have a place and environment where couples could get out in a good, clean, safe environment, be around other Christian people,
Hmm.
not have to worry about, being at a bar, what's going to be played or whatever, but be around some other good Christian people and just have fun.
Hmm.
Do something that was fun, lighthearted, and make it affordable.
Yeah. And the only thing they have to worry about is your jokes.
That's exactly right. That's the worst. You just got to put up with that. But as long as you can handle my dad
Yeah.
jokes, then it's a fantastic night.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that this last year, and they've been a huge hit.
Mm.
We've done Singo, Newlywed Game. We've done pickleball. We're actually thinking about doing an axe throwing night. But True North and James have been so good at opening up and saying, "Hey, moving forward in 2026, once a quarter, we're going to do some of these right here at the True North office."
Mhm.
And so for 50, 60, $70, depending on some of the logistics, we give couples the ability to come in, have a date night. It's very affordable. It's hard to have dinner for two
Yeah.
for under $50 these
Yeah.
days, and have fun, but in a good, clean Christian environment. And we share a few marriage tips along the way, but it's just a deal to get together, laugh,
Mhm.
joke, see some people you maybe haven't seen in a while, and even meet some new ones.
Mhm.
And so, man, those have been really, really fun to do.
Yeah.
So we have our marriage retreats, our marriage conferences
Yeah.
for couples to get away and connect and learn some marriage tools and resources. And
Mhm.
we do those quite a few times, about 6 or 7 a year.
Mhm.
Oklahoma, Texas. We're getting ready, I
Yeah.
think, this next year launch one or two in
Well, and they're
Colorado.
kind of versatile too. Like I know that you do a conference. Like sometimes you'll be locally here in Oklahoma City at a church where you'll do a couple day conference,
Yep.
and then you also have the retreats. Are you hitting like the same content at both of those? It's like the same experience, just one's local, one's more of a retreat style.
Yeah, exactly. So we've kind of got a whole program, if you will, kind of base camp esque,
Hmm.
that we do regardless of the environment. So our conferences are 2 days at a church. It's a Friday, Saturday,
Okay.
and all the same content, but just kind of compressed a little bit.
Hmm.
Obviously, at churches on Sundays, it's all about them. And so we do those on Friday, Saturday. Then our retreats are Friday night, Saturday, and then we're done by about noon on Sunday. And so that's a chance to get away, retreat
Yeah.
center, the mills, date nights, same content, but in a little more relaxed, a little slower pace.
Yeah.
And those are usually at some retreat center.
Yeah.
The conferences we did, so if someone doesn't have the time, and frankly, they're less expensive, you're not paying for the food, the hotel, all of those
Yeah.
things. Same content, but you go home at night. So for
Mhm.
younger couples with little kids, it's a whole lot easier because really they just need babysitting for a day or two and they can come back home at night.
Yeah.
And that's really why we kind of did that. And then we do have churches that bring us in often for those, and we'll go, "Hey, will you come present this at our church?" And so
Yeah.
we've got a group in Texas that's bringing us in February, a church on the south side that's bringing us in January doing that. And so we love doing those
Yeah.
conferences. And
That's great.
so, yeah, those are fun to do where it's,
Yeah.
like couples, and we keep it very interactive
Yeah.
and very real.
Yeah. Can you kind of high point um, for someone curious, like what it does the content look like? Like if I high pointed base camp, it'd be what's our role as a man, and then like what
Yeah.
wounding have we been through, and how do we pursue the beauty? Like what's the high point you would say of the marriage retreats?
And so, like I said a minute ago, very base camp esque.
Yeah.
And so, we actually structured the marriage conferences and retreats kind of after base camp. So, I like to say, and I'm a little biased, but I like to think really good content,
Yeah.
just like Eldridge, really good, solid content. But the gold is not the content. The gold is the quiet time with
Hmm.
God. And so we built that in. So our
Yeah.
conferences and retreats, which by the way, one of the things I love is how many times guys have been to a base camp. It's life changing. They love it. They try to share it with their wife, try to get her to understand or explain it. But it's one of those things you sometimes just have to experience, which, man, for the women, go to Sacred Journey, do those things. It's as important for them. And guys, do whatever you have to do to get her there. I mean, do
Yeah.
your part and help get her there. Um, but this is something that she can kind of get a taste of that. She can, because we jump into understanding marriage. What is God's intent? What's the biblical view of it? understanding your story, your wounds. We dive into that and how that
Hmm.
translate into how we relate, how we view marriage, how we understand love. We have an entire session over agreements. One of my deep, deep agreements in my marriage was I married the wrong person.
Hmm.
Well, you can have all the best marriage advice. I mean, Amy and I spent a lot of time and money going to different marriage counselors, and God bless them, not their fault. But if a counselor doesn't even know what an agreement is, and yet I'm living out of the agreement that I married the wrong person, the best advice in the world is useless.
Yeah.
And that's the way I kind of describe it, because I walk people through, we talk about it at the, conferences, retreats, etc. And by the way, the term agreements, that Eldridge, and I love how he does it, because he makes often really complex issues
Mm.
very
Yeah.
palatable and understandable.
Yeah.
That's what Eldridge
That's,
is
yep.
just gifted in. Um, but I've had a lot of people over the years go, okay, like I know agreements are real. Like, I mean, once you're exposed to them, they're absolutely real. But they're like, where is it biblically? And so I started really searching for that. And what I will tell you is 2 Corinthians 10, verses 3 through 5 says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we're not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but they have divine power to destroy strongholds." And so for most of us, if you grew up in church or been in church, you've heard strongholds. Like we
Yeah.
all have heard that.
Yeah.
For most of my life, what I thought a stronghold was an addiction: drugs,
Mm.
alcohol, gambling, porn, affairs, whatever it may be.
Mm-mm.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Strongholds are
Yeah.
addictions, but addictions are not affair or not, sorry, addictions are not strongholds.
Yeah.
Well, why do I say that? How do I know that? Because Paul just made it very, very clear. They're divine, they're spiritual, they're
Hmm.
not fleshly. So then what are they? Well, he tells us at the end, and going into verse 5, he says, "We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. Therefore, we take every thought captive to make it obey Christ."
Hmm.
And so he's laying it out. Now, Paul uses a lot. I wish Paul would just come out and said, "Hey, we have a spiritual enemy, the father of lies. He lies to us. Take every thought captive." One day, if I write the Bible, that's what I would say.
Oh gosh.
But that's how I would have said it. But that just wasn't the way Paul said it. But that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
He was saying we're in a very real spiritual war, and the war is against truth and lies, because those arguments and lofty opinions raised against the knowledge of God, they're lies. And so he's going, hey, we're in a war. The war's in our mind. And if we don't take every thought captive, we don't make it obey Christ, if we don't make it align with scripture, the devil's going to get in.
Hmm.
And so the way I kind of picture it is like in our soul, and kind of this clear cube, if you will. And there's a pulley inside of it, and there's rope coming in and there's rope going out. And what we do is we often go to church, we do Bible studies, men's groups, whatever it may be, and we bring in truth, bring in truth, bring in truth. The problem is, if what's filling my soul are the lies, then all that truth is just a giant pile of slack rope at my feet.
Hmm.
Because I could hear Proverbs 31 that he who finds a wife finds a good thing, but my agreement was I married the wrong person. I could quote that verse to
Hmm.
you, but what I was believing was I married the wrong person.
Yeah.
I could quote Philippians 4:13 that I can do all things through Christ who
Hmm.
strengthens me. But how many bonfires have we been to, and how many men? I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough husband, not good enough, father,
Yep.
employer, whatever it is. And so we hear the truth, but if what's filling our soul are those lies, that's a stronghold, because that is now what I believe. That's how I'm going to live.
Hmm.
That is my lens or filter of how I live my life and see my life. And so, understanding that in marriage, especially,
Yeah.
that if I make the agreement, he or she's never going to change, he or she doesn't really love me, I married the wrong person. Well, five love languages is useless.
Yeah.
The best communication techniques are useless.
Yeah.
And so understanding the significance of the agreements,
Hmm.
which, those of us base camp, we get it. We've been around a bonfire, where sometimes we miss is, man, I make agreements about my wife, about
Hmm.
my marriage, about our life, and they're every bit as crucial.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's one of the things that we love
Hmm.
to do, is even help couples and spouses
Hmm.
understand that concept and walk them through it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so powerful. And how many opportunities do couples have to do something like that? That's
And that's where base camp's amazing. sacred journey is amazing. Having those individual moments is amazing, and they're needed. I mean, you got to do it, and you got to do it for yourself. But how many opportunities to do that together,
Yeah.
and to be able to understand, and frankly, to be able to kind of share with each other, man, these are the agreements I've been holding on to about you.
Yeah.
And I know on the surface that sometimes sounds like, well, in a million years I would never tell my wife what I've been
Mhm.
thinking. Um, but we have to.
Yeah.
We have to confess our sins one to another, and not to hurt each other, not to offend each other, but to actually let each other know, hey, I've been believing a lie about you. The devil has gotten in my head and my heart, and I'm admitting it, I'm confessing it, I'm releasing it so that I can begin to see you through a new lens, a new
Mhm.
light, and I can see you as God sees you.
Yeah.
Because so often, what the devil does, he takes what God brought as a blessing. He who finds a wife finds a good thing,
Mhm.
but the devil, through an agreement, turns it into a curse.
Yeah.
And we have to break that lens and begin seeing it as the blessing God brought to us.
Yeah. Have you seen some good story? Have you gotten to witness? I mean, I know the answer, but are there any like stories that you have regarding that that you can think of? And you can keep it anonymous, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Well, probably the best macro level, and then I'll share a couple stories. But um, and by the way, none of this is anything to do with me. I
yeah,
would
yeah,
love to sit here and go, man, I'm a genius and I'm the best counselor in the world. I'm a big dumb idiot that God has found for whatever reason to use me in some ways,
yeah.
because literally the counseling process that I use, it's not mine. And it's not about 5% of what I learned in school is what I use. So much of it is this Eldridge message and base camp material, etc. But the majority, God actually woke me up one night. He woke me up in the middle of the night. I woke up, had to go pee, is what old men do.
Yeah.
And as I'm laying back down, I go to lay down in bed, and I'm trying to go back to sleep, and I can't. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll start praying, and that'll put me to sleep. Just being totally honest, that was my mindset at the time. And so I started off in this very kind of weak prayer, just going,
Mhm.
okay, God, be with True North, be with these guys, be with my men's group. And after about 20 seconds, out of nowhere, just and the it was almost like the Matrix. It's really the only way I can kind of describe it. I kind of call it like a spiritual download. God just started showing me all these kind of counseling ideas and theories and all this stuff. And I just kind of shoot up and my eyes are wide. And I got up and I went into the kitchen and grabbed a pen and paper and I started writing all this stuff down. And it's the counseling process that I use
Mhm.
today. And once again, I'm not taking credit for any of this. It's just not mine, it's God's. But we have a 93% success rate with a fair recovery,
Mhm.
which is one of the hard, I mean, that is one of the hardest counseling things. That and losing a child are two of the most difficult things to overcome, and we have a 93% success rate. And once again, it's not because I'm this genius counselor. God gave us this process of finding healing internally for the two people first.
Mhm.
And so, what we really do is my goal, what I tell it for everyone, my goal is to help you get as spiritually, as emotionally, and as relationally healthy as possible in that order. Because almost everyone that comes into my office, you know, there's an affair, there's an addiction. I mean, I see porn all the time,
Mhm.
or we just don't like each other. Frankly, a lot of couples will come in, they're like, "Look, I want to stab him in the face with a fork," and so it really doesn't matter what the issue is,
Mhm.
but they come in because of relational issues. They're just not happy, and I get it. However they articulate it, what is often said over and over and over is we've fallen out of love,
Mm.
and the reality is I don't question that. I don't know that I've ever met a couple who's been married for any real significant amount of time who actually hasn't fallen out of love at some point.
Mm.
And that's okay. But what I want them to really understand is your relational health is a byproduct of your spiritual and emotional health.
Mhm.
You can't fix a broken marriage
Mhm.
because a marriage is nothing more than the sum of the two people that make it up. When a marriage is broken, it's not because the marriage is broken. It's because there's brokenness in the individuals that make up the marriage.
Mhm.
And so, someone who's not spiritually and emotionally healthy can never be relationally healthy. Unhealthy people don't have healthy relationships. And so often, especially marriage counseling, and like I said, Amy and I did this off and on for 15 years. We'd go to a counselor and it was, well, let's talk about how do we fight? How do we conflict
Mhm.
resolution?
Mhm.
How do we communicate? What's better intimacy? And all these things that were good things, but it all focused on the relational health. It wasn't until True North and allowing Jesus to come in and heal the brokenness in me
Mhm.
that we ended up becoming relationally healthy.
Mhm.
And so I actually do the first probably 70-80% of my counseling, my marriage counseling, individually,
Mhm.
working with the individuals, taking them through an inner healing process to become spiritually and emotionally healthy,
Mhm.
to walk through forgiveness, walk through breaking the agreements,
Yeah.
walk through the things in their life. Because if you're not healthy individually, you can never be healthy corporately.
Yeah. What what are some themes you're seeing right now in marriages that might be surprising to some people? Like there's the obvious, like you listed out, like guys that have addictions or there's affairs, like the big stuff like that. But like what are things you're seeing that couples are struggling with that people might either be surprised to hear or be like, oh yeah, like I'm dealing with that too.
So there's a couple of different things that you kind of start to see themes that kind of societally or, and sometimes I believe spiritually. So one of the first ones right now that I don't think is going to shock anyone, but it's this whole thing of busyness. And it's very real, kind of. And something that God started showing me is yes, we are busy as people. Um, but are we really any busier today than we were 10 or 15 years ago?
Hmm.
Are we really any busier today than maybe during COVID or whatever? I actually think almost societally, we've made the agreement of how busy we are. And the problem is, once we make that agreement, that now is your lens and filter. And when we begin, so I'm going to step back just to kind of the significance of agreements, and I believe why they're strongholds. Because what we feel, okay, now feelings and emotions are the same things, just like ice and water are the same thing, H2O, but they're obviously very different. A good friend of mine, Alan Gibson, responder at base camp, he says all the time, he goes, water and ice are the same thing, but adding water to iced tea does not make it better.
Yeah.
Okay. And so feelings and emotions are the same things and very different. Emotions are our more consistent, there are more stable feelings because they're based on our core beliefs. Because what I believe drives how I feel. So if I wake up in the morning, life is good, God is good, I have a great marriage, man, I'm blessed. How am I going to feel? I'm going to feel great. I'm going to feel happy, blessed,
Mhm.
etc. How am I going to act? Happy, blessed,
Mhm.
joyful, etc.
Mhm.
What we believe drives our emotions. Our emotions are often what drive our actions. And so if I believe life is good, I'm going to feel that way. And therefore, I'm going to live that way.
Mm.
And so those are our emotions. They're based on our core beliefs. Now, feelings are no less significant, but they're more circumstantial. So I could once again, life is amazing. God's great. My marriage is great. But if I got a phone call that Amy was just killed in a car wreck, well, now I have deep feelings, grief, sadness, anger, whatever. And so feelings are not insignificant, but they're more circumstantial. Emotions are more based on our core beliefs, which is why agreements are so unbelievably powerful.
Mm.
Because if that's now my core belief, that's how I'm going to feel. And how I feel often dictates how I act,
Mm.
it drives how I live. And so if I believe, man, I'm busy, I'm stressed, we're maxed out, we're not connected, that's exactly how I'm going to feel. That is exactly how I'm going to feel.
Mm.
Well, how am I going to live? Stressed out, angry, tired, all of those
Yeah.
things. And I'm not saying that there's not a lot of busyness, there is.
Yeah.
But I hear these people over and over. Societally, we've kind of just surrendered to it. And we have just agreed societally, we're busy. And therefore, we live that way. We don't connect, etc.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually a massive kind of scheme from the enemy
Mm.
that has gotten us to just feel like we're checked out and disconnected.
Mhm. Well, busyness is the enemy of intimacy,
I,
and intimacy is the goal. Like the opposite of intimacy is not even isolation. It's actually busyness.
yep. That's which leads me to the second one. there is a true isolation.
Hmm.
And that is something that, man, we live in the most connected society ever, and yet we've never felt more disconnected
Yeah.
ever. And that is something that, and we know this with True North,
Yeah.
for years we know that a guy comes to camp and has this life-changing experience, but it becomes a camp high or it becomes a lifestyle. And the difference is if he gets into a band of brothers, if he gets into community, if he gets plugged in with guys there afterwards,
Hmm.
that is the secret sauce. It takes that moment from being a camp high to a true long term life change that he lives different forever. That same thing is true maritally. Man, so many couples, they're just alone. They're
Hmm.
alone, they're isolated, they're doing life on their own. And the problem with that is you're now putting all of your emotional needs on one single person.
Hmm.
And they were never meant to be that.
Yeah.
We're meant to have friends. We're meant to have a band of brothers. We're meant to have community, doing life with one another. And when we take all of that pressure and we put it on our spouse, it's an impossible weight to bear. And it's the most unloving thing you can do
Yeah.
is going, now, my wife's my best friend. She can never be my only friend.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Hmm.
She's my best friend. She should never be my only friend. And I've got to have those men. I've got to have those other couples. It's paramount.
Yeah.
It's absolutely paramount. And that kind of coupled with this agreement of busyness,
Yeah.
I think is where the devil gets us to believe we're so busy.
Hmm.
Don't take the time. Don't take the
Yeah.
sacrifice and the energy to truly get connected and be
Hmm.
intimate with other couples.
Yeah. This could probably send you down a rabbit trail where you could teach for about 30 minutes. What I'm hearing a lot, and I know you've probably heard this from plenty, what I'm talking about right now is good men that have deep intimacy with God.
Yeah.
They can hear the Father's voice, and their wives feel like they're emotionally unavailable. What's going on with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot. It's a lot of warfare.
Yep.
We know that.
Yep.
Like, are you experiencing this? Like, we've talked about on the podcast? Like, we need to figure this out. Like, because
Yeah.
this is good men getting taken out. And Eldridge talked about it at a retreat I just recently went to. He's like, we have good, deep men that I'm just finding out like they got divorced last year. Like it ended. Like their wives felt like they weren't seen, heard, and these are men that love God and love people and love their wives, but they
Yep.
just couldn't figure it out. So what's going on?
So I see that on the daily.
Yeah.
um, and there's a core truth that is universal when it comes to communication. And I say universal, doesn't matter age, race, demographic, ethnicity, whatever. All of us share when and where we feel safe. We do not share when and where we don't feel safe. And that is just an absolute core human truth when it comes to communication, and especially those truest, deepest parts of our heart and our soul. We share when and where we feel safe. We don't share when and where we don't feel safe. And we know this with True North. I mean, we see it at the bonfire. We see it
Yeah.
in men's groups where guys that have never opened up and they open up in front of 100, 150 guys that they don't even know. And why? Because in that moment they feel safe. That's why. That is the why. That doesn't always translate at home. And for a multiplicity of reasons, there's often unforgiveness. And I will tell you that's one of the very first things that we walk through. Um, I believe the two crucial kind of roadblocks, if you will, for couples and marriage is unforgiveness and agreements. And what I'll tell you is unforgiveness and agreements, overcoming those doesn't necessarily fix everything. But what I absolutely guarantee you, nothing will ever get fixed without addressing forgiveness and agreements. It will absolutely, it will kill a marriage. I've
Mhm.
never seen a marriage end that didn't have an unforgiveness or an agreement in it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Mhm.
I absolutely 100%. And I'm not a fan of emphatics, but this is one of those things,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the big issues is not that men aren't opening up. The question is, why are they not opening up?
Mhm.
And somewhere, somehow, they just don't feel safe. And so this is where diving in and going, okay, Where do you not trust her and why?
Mhm.
And some of it's founded, some of it needs to some forgiveness given and to force through and work through some of that. Some of it's fear based on agreements
Mhm.
that they're holding on to. And the problem is if you won't open up, it kills that intimacy. And which, by the way, intimacy is not sex. This is something that's kind of a pet peeve of mine.
Mhm.
We've done this in the church world. We've sanitized. If you're anywhere at church or talking, often to Christians, and we mean sex, we say intimacy.
Mhm.
Like sex is a bad word. It's a four-letter word, and it's not. It's only three letters. And so we, but we've tried to sanitize sex
Mhm.
by calling it intimacy. It's not. It's a
Mhm.
form of intimacy, and I would argue the pinnacle of intimacy, but it's not the totality. And so intimacy is that connection, that close, deep place. And the reality is, if we don't feel safe with someone, we can never have true intimacy with them.
Mhm.
And that's what actually has to be. That's where that breakdown is
Mhm.
coming. Is men just frankly don't feel safe to
Yeah.
open up and share.
But there's hope,
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
Like,
huge
because you
hope.
say, like, there's the emphatic statement of there's no divorces that have happened without unforgiveness and agreements. But if you have unforgiveness and agreements in your relationships, which a lot do, like little stuff and some bigger stuff,
Yep,
but there's hope for that, right? There's hope to
absolutely.
walk through that process. And I mean, whether that's through choosing love or just like finding good marriage counseling, that
Yes.
I mean, advocating for you got to work on it. You can't. Too many people are just like allowing it to just go on and hoping it kind of fixes itself, right?
In part of this too, and I could go on for hours, and I'm not, but part of where choosing love, the name comes from, is there's a feeling of love. So First
Yeah.
Corinthians 13, the whole thing that, I can move a mountain, I give my body to be burned, but without love, it's nothing. And love is patient, love is kind, doesn't envy, boast, all that we hear,
Hmm.
bears all things, believes all things, love never ends. That always sounds great on a coffee mug. It looks great stitched on a pillow. But if I'm being real candid, for most of my life, I often read that verse and in the back of my mind, I thought, BS.
Hmm.
My mom and dad loved each other, got married, and had me. They don't today. I loved Amy. We got married, had kids. To be real honest, I didn't love her for probably close to a decade. And I emphatically do today and have for the last 15 years. So, one of two things is happening. Either the Bible's dead wrong or our understanding of it's wrong.
Yeah.
And so, not to go into all of it, but we have all these different understandings of the word love. And New Testament written in the Greek in First Corinthians, in the Greeks had 9 different words that we translate into one. They had 9 different words for love.
Hmm.
I can love the thunder, easy to do. I can love the Sooners, so far easy to do
Yeah.
this year. Come on, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
But I love pizza, my dogs, I love Amy, I love my boys, I love God. Are those all the same? Of course not. But we lump them all together.
Hmm.
And so there's these different forms of love. There's love of family, which in the Greek is the word storgai. There's love of a best friend that I have with so many men in my life, which is the word philia. And then there's the word eros, E-R-O-S. It's where we get the word erotic. Eros includes sexuality, but it's so much more. It's the passion, it's the desire,
Hmm.
it's those butterflies. What eros ultimately is, it's the feeling of love.
Mm.
That's a beautiful thing. A marriage without eros is tragic.
Yeah.
And that's where people that come in my office almost daily, we've fallen out of love. What they really mean is they've lost their eros.
Yeah.
And once again, I don't question that. As a father, there's not a whole lot of eros in the third trimester of pregnancy,
Yeah. No.
okay, or even a newborn. There
Yeah.
ain't a whole lot of eros in those
No.
moments, and that's okay because that's not the word that's used there.
Hmm.
The word that's used there is the word agape.
Hmm.
And agape is unconditional love. It's John 3:16, for God so loved the world, God so agape'd the world.
Hmm.
And so that word agape is unconditional love. And once again, I knew that. I'd known that for years. What I didn't really understand is what made it agape. Because we can slap a label on something and go, well, it's this. But so what? We can understand the feeling. But what does unconditional love really mean and what makes it unconditional? And what I will tell you what makes it unconditional, because I choose it.
Mhm.
because if I choose love, you can't change it.
Mhm.
It's my choice. Now, you can influence it. You can make it easier to love you.
Mm.
You can make it harder to love you. Okay. And I've
Yeah.
met a lot of people that are hard to love. But if I choose to love them, that's my choice.
Mhm.
And I've had some people push back on this every now and then. And I'll tell them, I'll go, in the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before Jesus was crucified, he's sweating blood. Father, if there's any way for this cup to pass over, but not my will, but yours. Did he want to go to the cross? There's nothing in me thinks he wanted to.
Mm-mm.
He was praying if there's any other way. He was sweating blood,
Yeah.
but he chose it.
Yeah.
He chose it.
Yeah.
And so what happens is there's this feeling of love, eros, and then there's this choice of love, agape. And so often, and I know it in my own life, and I've seen it with literally every person I've worked with, when we lose the feeling, we often stop choosing.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, kids, mortgage, work, stress, busyness, all those things,
Mhm.
agreements, unforgiveness, we lose the feeling and then we stop choosing love. And the problem is, if I stop choosing it and I've lost the feeling, I'm never going to get the feeling back. I'm going to forever feel alone, isolated, and ultimately unloved. But yet, and the hope is, if I will choose love, no matter what I feel,
Mhm.
if I will choose love in spite of my feelings, eventually
Mhm.
the feeling comes back.
Yeah.
And I never want to speak on behalf of God, but I've seen this to be 100% true. So I know it's of God. I believe the feeling is the blessing of the choice,
Mm.
and that he blesses, not immediately, but eventually, he blesses us with the feeling
Mhm.
because we choose it.
Yeah.
And so that concept is true with love. What I will tell you is it's also true with forgiveness. There's a feeling of
Mm.
forgiveness,
Yeah.
this feeling of release, lightness. It's cliche, but it's like the chains breaking and falling off. It's that freedom. And man, at a bonfire and 100 guys yelling
Yeah.
freedom, like, it's powerful. But what happens is, because so many times we don't feel forgiveness, what we feel is anger, hurt, bitterness, resentment, betrayal, whatever, we don't choose it. And if I don't feel it,
Mm.
and so therefore I don't choose it, I'm never going to get the feeling. I'm going to hold on to the
Yeah.
anger, hurt, bitterness, resentment, etc. But conversely,
Mm.
if I will choose forgiveness in spite of my feelings, eventually the feeling catches up.
Yeah.
And I truly believe this is a universal concept. I believe there's a feeling of joy and there's a choice of joy. I believe that there's a feeling of peace and there's a choice of peace.
Mhm.
And I believe this is something that we've just frankly kind of missed as the church
Yeah.
at large, is this power of choosing what we believe that will drive our feelings, which will then begin to change our life.
Mm. I love that. Good job on picking the name for the organization.
It's not
Like,
a
that's a
coincidence. Yeah.
pretty phenomenal foundation for a name, right? Like, that
Yeah.
has such a deep meaning. Well done. That's awesome. Taylor, how much time are we at right now?
50.
50 minutes, and we're finally getting to the whole reason we want, like, that I wanted you to come onto the podcast, and something
Yeah,
you're most excited about. And
I
so
know it.
so people, we're not wrapping up right now. We're not doing that. Like, we're actually just about to get into a really exciting thing that we've been talking about for months.
Yeah.
It's been in the works for
Oh,
months. Um, Trey, you guys have sat down and professionally done a new video series that small groups can take their small groups, or I'm sure just couples individually,
yeah.
but community would probably be best. We
Yes.
believe in that.
Yep.
But they can go through together, and there's a workbook. Okay, tell us everything else we need to know about it.
So I want to set it up just a little bit. Um,
I thought I already did that.
well, no, you did, you did,
So
and a
cool.
great job. So choosing love came into existence because Amy and I started years ago, early on, kind of in our affair recovery in our marriage, not knowing really what we were doing. We just kind of felt a calling. And I thank God for sometimes just being young and dumb, because we didn't know any different. And so we decided to do it, but it was such a blessing. John and Stacey Aldridge had a marriage series called, and still do, but called Love and War.
Mhm.
And it was back DVD, back when DVDs
Yeah.
were a thing. As a matter of fact, I came across the DVD when we were moving here not too long ago, and I was like, I can probably officially let this go now.
Yeah.
But we would bring 2 to 3 couples into our house on a Wednesday night, and we would hit play, and we would watch 20, 30-minute video, and then we'd go through the workbook and talk for the next hour, hour and a half. And it was incredible how the Holy Spirit just moved through it, helped couples, and frankly, so many guys, through True North, and several of those guys have been leaders and different things in True North throughout the years. But it did something in Amy and I. And every time we poured out ourselves into other couples, it actually strengthened us and just continued to heal us.
Yeah.
And so Love and War has been close to our heart. We did it for about a decade. We've taken dozens of couples through it, and it's a great, great program. It's just old. It's just old.
Hmm.
It's kind of old, outdated. John was wearing Crocs before Crocs were even cool again. I'm not sure they ever were, but and so it had really been on our heart for a long time. We'd love to update it. We'd
Yeah.
love to kind of do an homage to the Eldridges and bring our content to it.
Hmm.
And so our board late last year, we kind of had a meeting and talked about it. And we said, you know what? Yes, we did some listening prayer. And we said, God, we felt like God saying, yes, do it. So at the end of the year, we really thought, okay, 2025 will be a fundraising year because we wanted to do this right. We wanted to bring in professional film crew. We're like, we're not going to do this holding iPhones. And, if we're going to do it,
Hmm.
let's make it legit. So it was going to be tens of thousands of dollars. And we said, okay, we don't have that right now, but God, we're trusting and believing you're going to bring it.
Hmm.
So we thought 2025 fundraising year, etc. We had donors. We never even put an ask. We didn't put a program together. We never even sent a letter. We never even asked. We had donors step up at the end of the year and gave. A couple of them were like, we don't even know why. We just feel God putting it on our
Mm.
hearts, and completely funded it.
Yeah.
And then we found the film crew. Uh, One of my counseling people who, frankly, his girlfriend was a new Christian. He wasn't. And is through the counseling process, started stepping back into his faith with Jesus, and goes, man, I don't even know why, but I think you need to take what you're doing and share it with people. I don't know. I just feel led. There's a guy that does some of my videography from, this church in Tulsa, and I think you ought to connect with him. And it was a godsend. And
Wow.
I mean, it was just phenomenal. And so the Choosing Love Marriage series, what we thought 2025 would be a fundraising year, we ended up filming it in April and May of this year,
Wow.
and ended up filming 10 sessions. Each one's 30 to 40 minutes. And it is kind of set in the same model of Love and War, but with our content
Hmm.
updated. And it starts off with a couple that kind of shares a 2 to 3 minute kind of short testimony. Then Amy and I teach a session, or whatever it is. We kind of do the teaching on it for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then really the gold is it goes into a living room, and we've got 8 of us, 4 couples that really dive in. And
Mm.
these are all guys, all these guys have been to base camp. The ladies have all been to a women's camp, all walk in this message.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, they're very familiar faces.
you'll
True
probably
North
know them
guys.
all.
I think all of them except one have responded.
Yes,
Like, so yeah.
that's it. So you'll recognize a lot of the faces, and guys who understand this message, the wounding, the agreements, and their wives that also understand this. And as we really prayed about it, we had some very honest conversations of going, hey, if we're completely open and on, like if we're going to go to the places we feel like God's calling us, there may be some churches that this is too much, like it's
Mm.
too raw, it's too open. And we're like, should we pull back and make it more acceptable?
Mhm.
And we just felt like God saying, you know what? Base camp is life changing because of how honest and raw.
Yeah.
And so we said, God, we're trusting you're going to do with it.
Mhm.
And so we didn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
Just give you an idea. I mean, a couple of the guys talk about being molested as children and how that affected
Mhm.
them in affairs, porn. One of the ladies, she actually shares she did not have an orgasm for the first 12 years of their marriage,
Mhm.
and like how that impacted their sex life and different things like that. And so, I mean, the level of honesty and
Mm.
transparency and openness to then put out to the world is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've watched a bunch of marriage series and done several of them, and they're all good. I haven't personally seen anything that's quite this honest. So we're super excited to see what God does with it.
Yeah.
we put it in a format so that just an individual couple could go through it. But like you said, we really encourage grab another couple, go through it in your home group or
Hmm.
life group or whatever you call it, Sunday school class. We even did it in a way that if a church said, hey, we're Wednesday nights, we're going to show the video and have a facilitator, talk about it afterwards, they can use it in a big church setting.
Hmm.
So we intentionally kind of designed it in that format to where it can be used kind of any way. But there is a workbook on Amazon. We're giving the videos away. God provided the money, so we're giving the videos away. We're
Yeah.
not charging a dime. They're going to be on YouTube. On our page, you can get there. Just go to YouTube and search Choosing Love Ministries, and all the videos are there free of
Hmm.
charge. The workbook, there is no good way of printing those and giving them out, shipping, but it's going to be on Amazon. They're like $15. It's like 76 pages because there's 10 sessions to this
Yeah.
video series. So we highly recommend the workbook just for the content. Go through. There's some additional content, but this is this is our life's passion.
Yeah.
And God brought the right people, the
Yeah.
film crew, the money. It was one of those things that, like I said, we thought 2025 fundraising year, 2026 would maybe be a year of producing it and then starting to get it out there. And it's like, nope, it's there, done.
Yeah.
January 1st, it's good to go.
Yeah. And so I know we're recording this a little early, but when this comes out, like it's available right
Yeah.
now. And so I don't think we haven't even mentioned it's choosing love. What's your website?
Choosinglove.info
.info.
is our website.
Okay.
And then on YouTube, it's just, if you search Choosing Love Ministries,
Yeah.
and you'll see it's a red circle with a his and hers wedding ring. So
Yeah.
you'll know it pretty easily.
Yeah. Is there a link to all that stuff in your website?
Yes. So if you go to
Yeah.
choosinglove.info, we have a
Yeah.
link to it on our website.
Yeah. And for our
Absolutely.
cavemen that have such a hard time, like their stuff is on the True North website. So if like all you know how to do is to get onto the True North website,
True
like you
North
could go to
dot live.
choosing love and the resources and then go into, yeah. We- yeah. Men, we need to do a podcast on tech skills and communication and
TRU.
yeah. Yeah. So man, that's really exciting. I mean, it seems like a dream to even get that stuff done and released, but can you share what are maybe even bigger than that? Like what's your dream for that content? Like what would you like to see it do? And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ideally, what we would love, so Amy and I love to do kind of our marriage conferences and retreats to kind of
Mhm.
go into churches and different groups and kind of live teach it. Just there's something because we keep it very interactive.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I say interactive, Amy and I kind of joke. When I say interactive, what I mean is uncomfortable, because we're usually in a church with people, and they maybe know a few other people, but they usually only know their spouse really, and we start diving into what are your agreements. Now,
Mm.
we're not asking everyone to open up with their deepest, darkest, but by the time we walk through some of it and we start sharing, people start to open up.
Yeah.
And, we do kind of start diving into some of it. And on one hand, that sounds really scary. And we know that even with men like at base camp, it's like, God, I don't want to go and open up and bare my soul. But then by the end of it, it's like, you want to share, you want to feel connected, you want to let others in. And so it's kind of that same model.
Mhm.
And that's our kind of big vision, if you will, is that the videos will kind of begin to open up doors to say, man, let us come into your church, let us come in
Mm.
and do these, and then let us help you start marriage groups, whatever. And of course, at the end of every one of our marriage events, I always end it with the best thing you can do for your marriage is to take care of your own heart.
Mm.
And guys, every one of you has to go to a base camp.
Yeah.
Ladies, every one of you needs to go to a camp. And so that's at the everything we do
Yeah.
always culminates with that yes, fight for your marriage, do the things, work on it, choose love, choose forgiveness, but you got to allow Jesus to work on you individually. And this is where you need to go do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. My hope is that, and really kind of the vision God gave me for choosing love, and behind the scenes a little bit, and James knows this, there's sometimes hard to get True North into churches as a whole. They don't understand it. They don't always know what we're teaching. They don't know what it looks like. Are we a cult or
Yeah.
whatever? And so it's hard. True North has an amazing reputation, been around for approaching 15 years here pretty
Hmm.
soon. Um, and yet there's still a lot of churches that are somewhat standoffish,
Yeah, skeptical. Yeah.
skeptical, etc. Counseling and marriage ministry has a wide open door.
Yeah.
There's always kind of a hunger and a need, and that was really kind of the vision God gave me, was allowing choosing love to kind of go in to open the door to bring True North in with it. And so that really is, I mean, ultimately, like, big vision. That's my heart,
I love
is
that.
that God would take this video series, would open it up in churches in California, churches in,
Mm.
New York. If there are churches in New York, I'm just kidding. I'm sure there's some great ones. But wherever, and would bring us in to do that. And then on the backside of that, it's, man, what would it look like to bring True North out here? What would it look like to start doing men's
Mhm.
groups and things like that wherever?
Yeah.
And so ultimately, long term, like, that's my hope and my prayer.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm all out of questions. So I like to ask, like, is there anything that was on your heart coming into this that maybe we haven't talked about? Um,
You know, I think something that um, I've been really passionate about, looking at, True North being men's ministry, whether it's changed, captivating, all these different, women's ministry, choosing love being marriage ministry. What I hope and pray, and my hope truly at the end of my days, is that when somebody thinks of choosing love, when someone thinks of True North, when someone thinks of, sacred journey or whatever, they wouldn't think of any person, any individual. They would think of Jesus. And
mhm,
that's what I pray more than anything, is that these organizations, we're not here to build our kingdom.
mhm,
We're here for these kingdoms to build his kingdom.
mhm,
And that when people think of sacred journey, or when people think of choosing love, the first thing that would come to their mind is Jesus.
mhm,
That when a guy thinks of True North, the first thing that would come to his mind is Jesus. That has just been a burning passion of mine,
mm,
that God just saying, we are the body, and that we're here alongside each other, and, fighting for each other and fighting with each other,
mhm,
but not never against each other.
mhm,
It's that thing that we're in a battle. And so many churches and so many ministries and so many things get so siloed. Um, and man, we're all here as the body. And that's what I love
mhm,
about, I appreciate you having me on and
mhm.
doing this. And, because like I said, I mean, you can't come to a choosing love event where they don't hear about True North
Yeah.
and hear about Sacred Journey or whatever. And I just think it's not our kingdom, it's his.
Mhm,
And building that together, we're so much stronger together.
mhm.
And I just love it. And so once again, I appreciate you so much, what
Yeah.
you're doing. Thank you for taking kind of what you said. I didn't build it, but being, one of the builders.
Mhm.
Um, Thank you for carrying that on and
Yeah.
loving for it, and you know, taking it and running with that mantle. And
Yeah.
that really was a huge release for me, to be able to
Mm,
say, gosh, True North is in good hands,
mm,
and for God to allow me to now go and build something new,
yeah.
and to where we can continue to partner and just even
Mhm,
continue to grow the kingdom.
mhm.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and thanks for everything you've done and are doing. This has been a great podcast to have you on, and it gets me fired up to get people engaged in the things you're offering, because I mean we're seeing it everywhere. And
Yeah.
so my encouragement to you guys is, like, get plugged in with this, like, seek out this content. Like, that's a cheap entry level
Yeah.
for potentially life-changing experiences, and then the retreats and all of that stuff. And if you need counseling, like, reach out to him, because and that's all available on your website too,
Yep.
like all that. So do it, go check it out. Activate, if the Holy Spirit's moving in you right now, like, that means he wants you to do something about it. Don't just, like, move on from this podcast. Like, step into it, because we need marriages need to be restored all over the place.
Yeah.
Even with, like, some of the, like we said earlier, the best leaders in our whole organization, like things need to start changing, and we need to lead by example.
And I'll end with this if I can. When you reach an individual, specifically a husband or a wife, you affect a marriage.
Hmm.
When you affect a marriage, you affect a family.
Hmm.
And when you affect a family, you affect generations.
Yep. Absolutely. Love it. Well, thanks for coming on, Trey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.